For spine-chilling trucker encounters that will haunt your nights and leave you terrified, Jake gripped the steering wheel tighter as shadows loomed over the road, the dusky twilight swallowing the last traces of sunlight. He was bone-tired, the kind of weary that sank into his bones after miles and miles of trucker life. He just wanted to be home in that little Midwestern town, with his kids dashing off the porch to meet him like rays of sunshine breaking the night chill. But the sudden drop in temperature, the creeping darkness, felt wrong. It gnawed at him. Taking a break at a dim rest area, he stretched his legs and leaned against his rig. The comforting hum of the engine faded, replaced by hushed voices drifting from the cracked windows of an old diner. Curiosity prickled his skin. He inched closer, every word crystal clear. The missing and they know. His instincts screamed to run. Jake shook his head, trying to dispel the darkness creeping into his mind. He turned on his GPS, but the screen flickered hungrily like a dying star, showing flashes of static and an abandoned community next to the highway. What the hell, he muttered, his heartbeat quickening. He felt a chill crawl up his spine. This wasn't right at all. Moving ahead, he found himself rolling into a ghost town, shadows of old factories towering above him like hungry beasts. They stood sinister and still, a silent judgment on forgotten lives that once thrived. Anxiety coiled tight in his gut. A fleeting movement caught his eye, something darting between the shadows, sending an icy breath of dread splattering against his resolve. Just when he thought of turning back, he spotted Charlie, his neighbor, appearing seemingly from nowhere. Charlie? Jake's voice was shaky. He remembered seeing him the night before, lurking outside his house at ungodly hours. The hollow look painted across Charlie's face was unsettling, desperate yet pleading. Something was dreadfully wrong. Jake's heart thundered in his chest as he pressed deeper into the streets lined with peeling paint and broken glass. People emerged like phantoms, their whispers heavy with secrets. Faces turned with hollow eyes, locking onto him, amplifying the pressure building in his chest. It was as if the very darkness was alive, squeezing him tighter as it encroached on his body and soul. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jake froze, the air growing thick with an overwhelming sense of dread, as realization flickered like a dying bulb. This town wasn't deserted. The whispers grew louder, hands gripping at their sides, eyes glinting in the darkness. They knew him. They knew his family. As Jake cornered himself against the rusting remains of a factory, fear burned through him. Who were these people, 50 times more sinister than he ever imagined? And what horrors lay hidden in the depths of their twisted folklore? With every nerve on edge, panic shot through him. Would these familiar faces truly stand against him? In a town that felt like it was swallowed by shadows, he gripped his keys tight, every instinct screaming at him to flee. But had he entered a web from which there might be no return? As the faces closed in, Jake was forced to confront the chilling truth. Not all monsters are found in the dark. Jake darted back, heart racing as cold sweat coated his palms. The figures that once seemed like neighbors now morphed into specters from a twisted nightmare. Their eyes void and lifeless cut through him like shards of ice. Clenching his keys, he turned, desperate to find an escape. But the unyielding shadows loomed closer, and the silence deepened, forming a solid wall of impending doom. Jake, a voice whispered, hauntingly familiar. He spun around. It was Charlie, his face contorted in a blend of terror and sorrow. You shouldn't have come here. Before Jake could respond, the figures surged forward, whispering like wind through dead leaves. They encircled him, a grotesque tapestry of familiar faces twisted by despair. Each step they took sent ripples of fear crashing through Jake. "Get away from me," he yelled, his voice hoarse and trembling. But their mouths twisted into cruel smiles, showcasing teeth that were too sharp, too predatory. The air pulsed with their breath, thick and fetid, breeding an atmosphere of ominous foreboding. Jake pressed against the rusted factory wall, his only way out blocked by the unholy gathering. "Why are you doing this?" he shouted, the very act of asking an admission of helplessness. Charlie's gaze tightened, filled with an inexplicable anguish. "They want to protect you, Jake," he rasped, voice cracking. "You don't belong here. You never did." Panic clawed at Jake's throat as he processed the words. Belong? All he wanted was to go home. But there was something different about home now. Hadn't he left shattered memories in its wake? He stumbled backward, brain racing through fragments of conversation, of warnings he had ignored, dark truths he had brushed off like dust. The figures closed in, their advances cautious yet predatory. "They know what you've done, Jake," they chorused, voices like static crackling through a radio. "They want to help you remember." Jake shook his head violently, drowning in confusion. "I didn't do anything. I just drive." Drive, their laughter filled the air, a low, rumbling echo that reverberated through the empty streets. "You drive right past memories that should have stayed buried too late now." In that moment, the shadows deepened, swirling into a vortex. Images flared in front of him, his children's faces, the warmth of home, memories twisting into horror. Screams flooded his ears, cries for help mixed with a heavy fog, shrouding faces he loved in a grim tableau of despair. Just like that, they surged forward, reaching for him, fingers stretching like grasping vines. In a flash of instinct, Jake lunged, pushing through the sea of bodies, their cold touch more like ice than flesh. His feet pounded against cracked concrete, short bursts of adrenaline guiding him through the darkness. But the whispers followed, a haunting echo whispering in his ears, "You can't escape your past." Then, ahead, he spotted the truck. Freedom if he could only break through the barrier of shadows. Jake surged toward it, adrenaline pumping, praying his strength would carry him to safety. But as he reached the truck, the figures closed in around him, their whispers crescendoing into a chilling cacophony. "You have to face the truth." Jake, with one final push, he grasped the door handle but froze. The sound of something scraping behind him sent a wave of dread crashing over him. He turned slowly, heart thumping violently, to see Charlie standing at the edge of the crowd, his face a mask of raw grief. "You have to remember, Jake. It's the only way." The words struck him like a bolt of lightning. Remember? What was there to remember? Just then, the ground beneath him trembled, shadows shifting as if waking from a slumber. Jake's breath hitched. Who were these people? What truth were they keeping from him? As the darkness coiled tighter, he felt an urge to escape, yet a morbid curiosity rooted him in place. What had he forgotten? What had he left behind? As the figures lunged, the last shred of his resolve slipped away, plunging him into a darkness far worse than any nightmare he ever faced. But, even in the approaching blackness, a whisper curled through the air, a question that loomed larger than the shadows. How far will you go to uncover the truth? Now the question haunted him even more than the chilling laughter echoing in the void. Would he find redemption or simply descend deeper into this nightmare? Jake's heart raced as he clutched the truck door like a lifeline. But the shadows were relentless, pouring over him like a thick fog, blocking every escape. The faces of the figures warped and twisted, their cruel laughter climbing higher, drowning out any thoughts of safety. You have to face it, Jake, they sung in unison, and he felt their icy fingers inching closer. Get away, he screamed, voice breaking. He mustered every ounce of strength, pulling the door handle once more. Yet, as it clicked open, the shadows surged forward, clamping around him like a vice. Clawed hands gripped his arms, pulling him backward as he fought against their grip. Panic coursed through him. How could he face the truth if he couldn't even escape this nightmare? With one desperate movement, he wrenched free, slipping through an opening in the eerie crowd. But as he stumbled into the open, it felt like stepping onto a precipice. The air outside was thick with dread. The dull thrum of distant voices echoed, urging him to recall. Fear prickled his skin, and he turned back to face the darkness that swirled and pulsed behind him. Charlie stood at the forefront of the crowd, eyes shimmering with unshed tears, his expression both pleading and sorrowful. "You have to remember, Jake. They won't let you go until you do," Charlie cried, his voice raw with desperation. What was it he had to remember? Frantic thoughts chased through his mind, colliding like a cacophony of nightmares. Shadows shimmered, and for a fleeting moment, the fear fell silent. He could almost see flashes of lost moments, his daughter's laughter, his son's innocent smile, the prickle of grass beneath his feet in a forgotten backyard. They mixed with something dark and malevolent, a stain on every cherished memory. "Stop it," he shouted, shaking his head violently. "I don't want this." But the phantoms closed in. Their whispering chant grew louder, each word a nail in the coffin of his sanity. "Face the truth, face the truth, face the truth." In a panic, Jake darted back toward the factory. He didn't want to confront whatever lay within, but desperation clawed at him. He dashed through the entrance, seeking refuge, though what awaited him inside was more terrifying than he could imagine. The air felt denser, coopering around him, thick with the suffocating smell of rust and decay. As he stumbled into the main hall, his eyes scanned frantically for an escape route. But what met his gaze ignited a chill deeper than the cold of the night. The walls were plastered with faces, twisted and muted, their eyes reflecting his own horror. Each picture seemed alive, shifting as if they were judging him, waiting for his inevitable reckoning. "Jake!" a voice called, coiling around him. It was Charlie again, now appearing beside one of the portraits. "You have to remember, you ran away from it. They're not here to hurt you. They need you to remember what happened that night, the night everything changed. The night everything changed." A memory tickled the back of his mind. A fleeting glimpse of a road, headlights flashing, a scream cutting through the silence. He pressed his palms to his temples, urging the dark reality to reveal itself. Suddenly, the factory trembled, a deep rumble vibrating through the floorboards, echoing the terror that wrapped around Jake. Shadows converged, thickening, their whispering now full of rage, crying for an answer, a response to the truth buried within him. He looked up, and Charlie was gone, replaced by the face of a woman, her expression filled with agony. "Jake, you left us behind." "No," he gasped, stumbling back. The truth felt like a tidal wave, breaking over him. What had he done? And then came the clarity. A grotesque montage of memories flooded his mind, framed by the faces around him. It wasn't just his past he had to face, but the consequences of something far darker. But before he could grasp the full weight of realization, the factory walls pulsed violently, darkness swirling into a singular point of blinding light. "Will you accept the truth?" a voice whispered from all directions. Jake's breath caught in his throat. He was running out of time. What was he willing to sacrifice? As the light expanded, consuming him in a dizzying array of nightmares, he understood that one answer lay buried at the heart of the chaos. And then, in the eye of the storm, he saw them, the faces. His children, the woman, chaos, and the truth spiraling out of control. But the final question loomed larger than anything he faced. Would the truth set him free or drag him deeper into the abyss? As the light threatened to swallow him whole, he felt the specter of his past closing in, and terror surged within him. How far would he fall before understanding the price of remembrance? The blinding light enveloped Jake, igniting his senses with an intensity he hadn't known before. It surged through him like icy currents, grasping at the very core of his being. He gasped for breath, but the air felt thick and unyielding. He was weightless, swallowed by a sensation of falling while being pulled in every direction by unseen forces. Suddenly, the light fractured, spilling vivid colors and shadows, each fragment revealing a piece of his past moments he thought he had buried deep. Laughter and cries echoed chaotically, spinning around him. His wife, her face strained with worry. His kids, faces twisted in confusion. The memory of that fateful night. The moment he had chosen to drive away instead of looking back. "Jake!" A chorus of voices screamed, his loved ones, that night's victims, and the shadows. Their agony wrapped around him, fingers clutching at his throat, twisting tighter. You ran away. You were meant to protect us. He struggled against the weight of the guilt that surged like tidal waves, crashing over him again and again. The room, spinning faster with each recollection, began to dissolve into a vast emptiness. No, I didn't leave you, he shouted, his voice trembling, but it was swallowed by the darkness. I didn't know. The emptiness tightened, morphing into a claustrophobic space, walls closing in. He could hear the mechanical whir of machines, the distorted sounds of screams ringing out, trapped in his mind like echoes in a tomb. The shadows coiled around him, their laughter rippling through the suffocating air, mocking him. Face it, they howled. You can't escape your sins. With a pulse of desperation, Jake pushed forward, willing himself toward the fading shadows of his wife and children. But they would not take his hand, their faces shrouded in sorrow, the void between them ever widening. The ache in his chest morphed into a deep pit of despair. I am sorry, he yelled. Just let me try to fix this. The walls revolted, vibrating angrily as the shadows swirled into a vortex of darkness above him, the laughter crescendoing into a screeching howl. It was then that a new figure emerged from the storm, rising above the chaos, a tall, imposing silhouette with hollow eyes that glowed like embers in the night. Silence! It thundered, and the cacophony stilled, a sudden, eerie hush falling over everything. Jake felt the heat radiating from the figure, a sinister warmth that promised entrapment rather than safety. You've been given a chance to face your truth, Jake, it said, its voice echoing and reverberating off the crumbling walls. Will you accept your fate? He staggered backward, heart thundering in his ears. What fate? What do you want from me? Only what you owe to them. The shadows swirled with renewed energy, grappling around him like hungry serpents. He could feel the tangible weight of every decision that had led him to this moment pressing against his chest. The factory shuddered violently, the walls splintering as the shadows climbed higher, their forms shifting and undulating. The figure loomed larger, frustration emanating from its presence. You can choose to forget and stay trapped. Forget? Jake's breath quickened. I can't lose them again. Then face it. The entity's voice slashed through the air like a knife, sharp and commanding. The shadows erupted, filling the room with a blinding darkness, and Jake's mind swirled once more, images flashing before him erode, a flash of light, the piercing scream that haunted him. His past had returned to snatch him back into the clarity of chaos. With a sudden sense of urgency, he realized that something was shifting in the turmoil around him. The boundaries of his pain blurred and merged as a faint light flickered within the dark. Choose, Jake. The voice rang out, louder now, more insistent. What is your price for remembrance? Jake's heart pounded as he felt the sensations of what he had lost press down on him. But in the face of that towering darkness, as memories danced around him, he sought that flickering light. Would he grasp it and draw on the strength of his love, or would he succumb to despair? As he reached toward the light, shadows clawed at his mind, desperate to pull him away. The last echoes of laughter faded out, replaced by the chilling silence that built the tension around him. What would it take for him to reclaim his truth? As tendrils of darkness reached for him one last time, Jake took a deep breath and plunged into the light, ready to confront whatever lay beyond. The light swallowed Jake whole, blinding him for an eternity. But where there should have been an escape, an end to his torment, he found only emptiness. A heavy darkness surrounded him, an oppressive blanket that turned the air stale and heavy. The shadows faded, but the fear remained, an unshakable companion in this surreal landscape. Jake began to hear whispers. Soft at first, they swirled around him like a chilling wind. You thought you could run. A voice sneered, deep and resonant. But here you are, trapped in the echoes of your own mistakes. He glanced around, but saw nothing, only the suffocating void. Panic gnawed at his insides. What is this place? Where am I? Your past. Your reckoning. The voice growled back, laced with triumph. You wanted to forget, but it wants you to remember. Suddenly, images flickered in the darkness, pinpricks of light illuminating the horrors he had tried to erase. A child's laughter turned into screams, a family photo tainted by blood, and the flashing lights of an ambulance piercing the stillness of that night. Each memory sliced through him like a knife, the weight of guilt bearing down more heavily with every replay. Why? Why are you showing me this? Jake shouted into the abyss, desperation cracking his voice. Because you need to face it. The voice boomed, casting an unnerving silence over the procession of memories. You want absolution, but first you must confront the demons you unleashed. Each recollection felt like a noose tightening around his throat. He could feel the heat of anger surge inside him, but it was swiftly extinguished by the cool embrace of despair. Stop it. I'm not afraid, Jake protested, but even he could hear the tremors in his voice. A low chuckle echoed around him. You don't even know the meaning of fear. The darkness shifted, forming into a shadowy figure. Its face obscured, but an unsettling presence radiated from it, like a predator watching its prey. Again and again you chose self-preservation over those who depended on you, Jake. What makes you think you can deserve mercy now? The figure stepped closer, revealing hollow eyes that seemed to pierce through his very soul. Because I can change, Jake gasped, desperately clutching onto hope. There's still time. Time? The laughter erupted like thunder, reverberating in the void, filling it with malice. You think that time will wash away your sins? A low rumble shook the ground beneath him, causing Jake to stagger. The darkness seemed to come alive, swirling in chaotic patterns, threatening to consume him whole. Shadows formed around him, pained faces twisted in agony, mouths agape, and eyes wide with horror. He stumbled back, heart racing, as he realized they were the souls of those he lost. Their expressions manifested the weight of his guilt, their hands reaching for him, pleading. Jake, they cried out in chorus, a blend of pain and betrayal. You left us to suffer. No, I didn't mean to. His words faltered as shame suffocated him. The monstrous figure drew nearer, extending a long, bony finger toward him. You'll have to choose, Jake. Redemption or damnation. Face your truth and bring peace to their souls, or continue running. But know this: a choice made from fear will only lead to more darkness. In that moment, the flashes of light returned. Realizations flickered like fireflies in the gloom. Jake's breath caught in his throat as he faced the possibility of what lay ahead. He could sink into the abyss, forever shackled by his mistakes, or he could plunge headfirst into the depths of his truth. But which path would keep him alive? With trembling hands, he extended them once more towards the shadows, ready to confront the horror that had haunted him for too long. As he felt the darkness pull at him, a sudden silence enveloped him. The air crackled with an unseen energy, and he braced himself for whatever awaited him. But then came the whispers once more, growing in urgency. Will you pay the price, Jake? From the depths of his soul, a horrifying realization dawned. Was he truly willing to face everything? As the shadows loomed ever closer, would the memories suffocate him, or would he emerge transformed? Jake's heart raced, balance teetering on the edge of his darkest fear. What price would it take to walk away, unbound? Darkness pressed in tighter, swallowing Jake's form as he took a deep breath, filling his lungs with the stale air of the void. He felt the cold fingers of despair wrap around him like a lover, unyielding and possessive. The shadowy figure still lingered close, its empty gaze never wavering, as if waiting for him to make his fateful choice. Face them, Jake, the voice whispered with a sickly sweetness, or let them consume you. What did it mean to face them? The word echoed like a drumbeat in his head, drowning out everything else. He took a step forward, a tremor coursing through him. Suddenly, all the faces he'd seen twisted in agony, dripping with sorrow blurred together until he couldn't tell where one began and the next ended. With every heartbeat, their cries grew louder, building into a cacophony of torment. Please, you have to tell us you're sorry. You have to say it. They surrounded him now, their bodies merging, swirling around him, howling in unison. "No!" Jake shouted, covering his ears. "I can't. You left me. You abandoned me." Laughter erupted from the figure, the sharp sound slicing through Jake's despair. "Ah, but did you not leave them first? Did you not make your choice long ago?" His knees buckled, the world tilted, and he crumpled to the ground, the weight of their grief pressing down on him like a millstone. Sweat trailed down his spine, chilling against the air. He felt his fear rise, a tide that threatened to drown him. "Say it," they wailed again, their voices like nails scraping against metal. "Say you're sorry." His throat closed, a surge of anger boiling beneath the surface. "I'm not doing this. I can't do this. What will it take for your hollow heart to turn to stone? Jake, your pain only feeds the darkness. You've suffered, but so have they unbidden." Memories returned to him, the glitz of flashing red and blue lights, the sirens wailing like banshees, the distant figure of a mother collapsing in the street. He could taste the metallic tang of blood on his tongue, feel the sharp edges of panic clawing at his mind. "Stop!" he roared. "Stop bringing this back. I know what I did." But instead of silence, a fresh onslaught of recollections surged forth, each one tearing into him, forcing him to bear witness once more. "Look at what you caused," the shadows cried. "Look at the heartache you sow." He clutched his head, squeezing his eyes shut. The memories painted his mind with horror faces. Names, moments lost, everything swirled into chaos. A mixture of regret and fury pulsated through him, and he felt something inside him shift. Will you embrace the truth? Will you cut through the darkness with your own power? The figure loomed larger now, its presence suffocating. With a deep breath, he pulled his hands through the shadows, feeling their cold embrace wrap tighter around his wrists. But he kept pushing through. The pulse of his memories beat against him, a relentless rhythm that echoed with his past. "I choose to remember," he screamed into the void, forcing the words past trembling lips. "I won't forget their pain or my part in it. I won't run anymore." The shadows surged, screaming, a whirlwind of faces and voices colliding against him with a deafening roar, crashing against his mind. And yet, through the storm, he felt hope flicker like a lone candle in darkness. But just as he thought he could hold that light, a bone-chilling laugh broke the air. "You think mere words can save you? You're still too weak, Jake." His heart raced. Was this another trap? Just as the thought crossed his mind, a vision burst forth. Bloodied hands, tears, flames consuming the edges of his reality, everything he dared to hope for, now dangling impossibly out of reach. "Let me in, let me guide you to the truth," the figure whispered, seducing, pulling on his longing to escape the anguish. And in that moment of hesitation, Jake felt the shadows rise again, thick and palpable. The choice weighed heavier than ever. Would he risk the truth one more time, or let his fear consume him entirely? With shattered breaths, clarity seeped into confusion, and he knew only one thing: something terrible awaited him. In the dark, would his past finally set him free, or would it seal his fate in eternal return? As he felt the darkness swallow him again, the choice became clearer. But would he have the courage to follow through? Jake's scream punctured the thick darkness that loomed around him, ricocheting off the void like a ball in an empty room. He couldn't tell if the laughter of the figure was meant to be mocking or predatory, but it sent tremors down his spine. Reality twisted like a rubber band stretched too far, threatening to snap. "Let me in," the voice purred, cloaked in velvet, wrapping around him like a shroud. "You can be saved, Jake. All you have to do is open your heart." His heart thudded in his chest, a frantic drum signaling an impending storm. Could he trust it? Could he trust the seductive darkness that coiled tighter around his thoughts? The faces of the lost flickered in and out before him, a montage of grief and betrayal. Each face bore witness to his cowardice, each whisper a reminder of the lives that splintered because of him. "No," he gasped, desperation clawing at his throat. "I won't let you control me." But the shadows recoiled like snakes, then rushed back at him, wrapping around his limbs, tightening like a vice. He could barely breathe, The weight of despair threatened to crush him. Why fight what you cannot change? You already surrendered long ago. They seek justice. Their cries reached a fever pitch, a terrifying symphony of rage and sorrow that clawed at the edges of his sanity. Time seemed to stretch taut, and Jake struggled to gather his thoughts through the haze. He remembered standing on that street, the blaring sirens drowning out the cries for help, the way he'd turned fled from responsibility. Make amends, the figure urged, its presence swirling like mist around him. Tell them you're sorry. The raw plea cut deep. The past was a treacherous ocean, waves of guilt crashing over him relentlessly. Just when he found his footing, another swell pulled him under. Panic flared, and he fought against it, desperate for air. No, I didn't want this. His voice echoed, breaking against the relentless waves of darkness. In the depths of chaos, fear tends to morph into anger. He lunged forward, pushing back against the fog, trying to reclaim his power. Was it courage or desperation? The line blurred as the figure's laughter echoed with a sense of triumph. Feel the truth, Jake. Embrace it. A sudden rush vision spilled forth, wild and fierce, igniting like wildfire. He saw those bodies, strewn in the road, their faces twisted in last moments of horror. An icy breath washed over him, as the remnant of his past seeped in, chilling him to the bone. What do I have to do? He cried, not ready to concede defeat just yet. Face your judgment, the figure replied, its tone heavy with weight. The choice has always been yours. Choose to bear the cross of grief. Show them the monster you have become. With those words, the shadows surged forward, swallowing him whole until he was standing in an unfamiliar place. A ghostly landscape stretched out before him, twisted trees clawing at a bruised sky, a desolate road stretching infinitely ahead, so much pain buried in the stillness. He was not alone. Flickering figures emerged from the teetering shadows, those same faces he recognized. Eyes entrapped in despair, waiting for judgment. They stared with haunting expectation, their gazes piercing through him, demanding he confront what he had become. As a chill wrapped around Jake, something barely visible lingered in the air. A flicker of fear gnawed at him again, a reminder of the choice others had made to drag him here, to stir those past regrets from their graves. Would he honor their pain and confront the monster within? Or would he crumble beneath the weight of the ghosts that haunted him? With a slow, shivering breath, he took a step forward on that fractured road, the darkness shifting, echoing the pitiful screams of the past. The path ahead warped and twisted as he ventured deeper, uncertainty thickening the air. Suddenly, he felt a cold hand grasp his shoulder, and the world around him plunged into chaos. Did you think it would be easy? The shadows hissed, as reality threatened to unravel, casting him again into the depths of terror. What new horrors awaited him in this shattered existence? The cold hand tightened on Jake's shoulder, fingers like ice digging into his flesh. He lurched forward, flailing against the darkness, but the grip held fast. Voices clamored, swirling around him like a tempest. Whispers of fear, shouts of rage. He could hardly make sense of it all. It was as if every regret he ever had was alive, clawing to be free. Turn around, the shadows howled, their breath rancid and stale. Face what you've done. He struggled against the force pulling him deeper into the gloom. Jake's heart raced, pounding against his ribcage, echoing in his ears. The chilling laughter rose again, filling him with dread and despair. Memories surged, unbidden. The street, the sound of shattering glass, the cries that would forever haunt him. He had turned his back then, and now he stood on the precipice of that moment, teetering on the edge between salvation and damnation. No, not again, he gasped, grasping at the air like a lifeline. I can't go back there. But the shadows pulled him relentlessly. The flickering figures from before materialized again, their faces pale and hollow, eyes boring into his soul. They were waiting, the expectation twisted inside him like a knife. What do you want from me? He shouted, desperation threading through his voice. The figure's laughter heightened, mingling with the cries of the dead surrounding him. We want you to remember, it hissed, to accept your fate. Are you ready to face your fears? Despite the coldness penetrating his bones, a flicker of anger flashed within him. I didn't kill them. It was an accident. The words issued forth, trembling. Accident? The voice laughed again. Is that what you tell yourself? It's easier to blame a moment than to admit the truth. The world around him twisted like smoke, revealing glimpses of faces contorted in pain, images superimposing on each other, the blinding headlights, the screams, the confusion. Again, he was there, suffocating beneath the weight of that night, darkness blanketing reality until he choked on his own fears. The cold grip slackened for a heartbeat, and instinct drove him. Jake turned, pushing against the shadows. A road stretched before him now, pulsing with the faint glow of headlights in the distance. The path shimmered like a dream, offering him a flicker of hope amidst the nightmare. Run, he thought, adrenaline surging through him, and in an instant he was sprinting, legs pumping as he tore down the road. The dark figures pursued, their laughter echoing like wolves in the night, inexorable. His breath tore from his lungs, sharp and painful. He stumbled, barely righting himself as the pounding footsteps of the shade crowd chased after him. The road twisted and turned, each step feeling like a betrayal to the gravity of his sins. The headlights flickered closer, illuminating grotesque shadows on the asphalt. Hope and horror intertwined as he pushed onward, pulse racing. What would he find at the end? Salvation or something far worse? Jake! A familiar voice sliced through, echoing painfully in his chest. He turned to find a face he recognized, a face from that fateful night, anguished and unyielding. Turn back before it's too late. Jake hesitated, heart thumping in merciless rhythm. Could he face the reckoning? Or would the darkness claim him once more? With hands trembling, he grasped his pounding heart, weighing the choice before him. The shadows lurked closer, their sinister intent palpable in the air. A choice loomed, heavy and unavoidable. What would it be? Face the past or run headlong into the unknown? Behind him, the laughter swelled, chilling his blood. The road stretched endlessly before him, riddled with shadows and doubt. As reality trembled at the edge of perception, a thought pierced his mind. What if confronting the truth meant losing everything he ever knew? The scenery morphed and distorted. Just as that haunting voice called out one last time, he was thrust into a blinding light. What awaited Jake in the searing brightness? Would it be freedom or final judgment? The brightness enveloped him, a searing white that pricked and prodded at his senses. He stumbled forward, blinded, until shadows began to creep in around the edges. The light faded slowly, revealing a sprawling highway. The asphalt was cracked and littered with pieces of glass, remnants of a shattered world. Jake blinked, disoriented. The familiar hum of tires against pavement rolled like thunder in his ears. He gazed up to see towering semi-trucks rumbling past, their headlights piercing the night like jagged teeth. A strange sense of déjà vu rushed over him. This was the road, the very one from his nightmares. Had the light led him back into the past or dragged him into an even darker future? Jake! The voice was sharp, cutting through the haze. He turned quickly, and there stood Gary, his partner from the truck stop, the one who had convinced him to make that drive. The expression on Gary's face was twisted with panic, his eyes wide, almost pleading. Get off the road, Gary shouted, urgency thrumming in his voice. Before it gets you. What? Jake asked, confusion washing over him. But the sound of approaching engines drowned out his thoughts. A low rumble grew louder, vibrating in his chest like an impending storm. Behind Gary, a dark shape emerged, a monstrous truck, far larger than any Jake had seen, barreling down the highway as if it were hunting. The headlights carved through the night, casting a long shadow that snaked toward them. In that moment, instinct took over. Jake grabbed Gary's arm and yanked him off the edge of the road. They stumbled onto the gravel shoulder just in time as the monstrous truck roared by, the rush of air rattling their bones. What is going on? Jake spat, breathless. What the hell was that? Gary's fear morphed into something darker. It's part of it, Jake. You don't understand. We shouldn't have come back here. The shadows tightened around them, whispering ominously. Face your sins, Jake, they crooned, their voices a sickly chorus that churned his stomach. Jake pushed against the encroaching fog. What sins? I didn't do anything. I didn't think. Gary interrupted, eyes blazing. It was the choices we made, the damage we caused. They're coming for you, for both of us. Jake's mind reeled. The panic bubbled up, clawing at his throat. He could feel the past rising like bile, the screams, the car that swerved. It all flooded back, vivid and suffocating. Suddenly, the truck screeched to a halt just ahead, tires smoking against the asphalt. Silence fell abruptly, heavy and oppressive. The headlights flickered, illuminating the figure that stepped down from the cab. Jake's breath caught. It was him, the man whose life had slipped through his fingers that night. The one whose face had haunted him every hour since. The ghost of anguish clawed its way forth, a spirit enraged and desperate for resolution. Why? The man whispered, voice trembling with sorrow. Why did you leave me? The shadows buzzed like angry wasps, encircling Jake, leeching his strength. He felt the weight of his past closing in, a prison with no escape. No, he choked out, backing away. I can't do this. I can't. The man took a step forward, face contorted in agony. You must, or suffer the consequences. And then, with a defiant thrust, the monstrous truck roared back to life, its engine growling like a beast preparing to pounce. It lurched toward them, sleek and merciless. Run! Gary shouted, fear splintering his words. Run! Jake took off, adrenaline flooding his veins. But as he sprinted, the shadows latched on, dragging him down, relentless and suffocating. Behind him, the truck roared, a predator eager for its prey. The highway stretched out, winding into a darkness he could barely comprehend. With every step, a shadow called his name, not just Jake, but a deeper truth. Coward, fool, killer. Would he break free from the chains that bound him? Or would he be swallowed at last by the darkness? As the truck's engines bellowed, a horrible realization struck him. The road led only to despair, and the truth was a far more terrifying monster. What would it mean to confront the very thing he feared most? Would he find redemption or his ultimate undoing? The monstrous truck surged forward, its headlights washing over Jake like the tide of impending doom. Each rev of the engine was a reminder of what lay behind him, a night marked by screams, tears, and a reckoning that he had tried to bury. But there was no escaping it now. He could feel the shadows wrapping tighter as he ran, pulling him toward the darkness he had always feared. Jake! Gary's voice sliced through the waves of panic. This way. Jake forced himself to focus, heart hammering in his chest. They veered off the beaten path, heading into a dense thicket by the roadside. The shadows whispered around him, but he pushed them back, fueled by the memory of his fading family and their haunted faces. Why is this happening? Jake gasped, glancing back at the truck. It was right behind them, dangerously close. The malevolence radiating from it made his skin crawl. It's the darkness you created. The guilt you wouldn't face. Gary shouted urgently. You have to confront it if you want to survive. The words echoed in Jake's mind like a taunting challenge. How could he face that darkness? The memories that had haunted him for so long loomed at the edges of his thoughts, waiting for an opportunity to devour him whole. Suddenly, the duo stumbled upon a clearing, illuminated eerily by the full moon hanging above. Silvery light spilled over dilapidated playground equipment, rusting and decaying, a ghost town of lost memories. In that moment, pieces of clarity began to force their way into Jake's consciousness, sharp and uninvited. Do you see that? Gary said, pointing at the swings swaying eerily in the breeze. As Jake turned to look, he saw it, his son, laughing and swinging, hair glinting in the moonlight. The image melted into the shadow of screaming faces, the cries of his family mixing with the laughter, wrapping him tighter in the suffocating cocoon of regret. No, this isn't real, Jake shouted, stumbling back as reality started to fracture around him. The past refused to be quelled. Face it, Jake. Gary urged, desperation swirling in his voice. You can't escape what you've caused. You have to embrace the truth. Jake's breath hitched as another figure emerged from behind the swirling shadows, the woman he loved. Her eyes filled with rage and sorrow. You left us, you chose to drive away, she cried, her voice splitting his heart open. The shadows shifted violently around them, screaming for acknowledgement, for acceptance of everything he had run from. No, I can't, Jake pleaded, panic rising in his throat like bile. I'm sorry. I never meant to. Sorry. One tea bring us back, she whispered, and the light of the moon dimmed, pulling him into darkness once again. As despair clawed at him, Jake saw the monstrous truck reappear, its headlights igniting with a terrifying glow. It rolled closer and closer, embodying his guilt and sins, all the moments he failed to be present, all the times he turned away. He was on the edge of something unthinkable. Jake, stand tall. You need to reclaim your life, Gary yelled as the truck's engine roared, drowning out the surrounding whispers. The truth was here, but would he have the strength to confront it? With a deep breath, he found the flicker of courage. The shadows pushed harder, urging him to submit, but Jake stepped forward. I did leave you behind, he shouted, voice reverberating against the silence. I was a coward, running from a night I thought I could forget. But I can't, I never could. The truck lurched forward, headlights brighter than ever, but Jake stood his ground. I'm ready to face the truth. I won't run anymore. With those words, everything changed. The shadows shrieked, recoiling as if burned by fire. He felt the weight lift, freeing him from their grasp. The clearing burst into light. The ghostly figures began to fade, the laughter of his children. The cries of despair were set free, unburdening him from the chains of guilt. In that moment, Jake's heart shattered wide open, and he finally understood. It was more than just regret. It was the acceptance that he could never change the past. He had to channel that pain into something meaningful. The monster truck screeched to a halt before him, the engine silent. The driver's door swung open, revealing the man he had failed, standing tall but calm now. No longer a specter of revenge, but a beacon of forgiveness. Will you carry them with you now? The figure asked, eyes steady. Will you honor what you've lost? Jake nodded, tears breaking forth. Yes, yes, I will remember you. I will live in a way that honors your lives. I'm sorry I failed you. The figure smiled, a warmth radiating from him, and with that smile, the darkness began to lift. The weight of history, guilt, and despair, threaded upon his heart, uncoiled and dissipated into the wind. Jake took a deep breath. The fog had cleared, unveiling the road ahead, cracked and broken, but illuminated with the warm glow of dawn. He turned to Gary, who stood gazing with awe. You did it, Jake. You found your truth. A smile broke through his tears. And now I'll find my path forward. With that, they walked together into the light, leaving the shadows behind. Jake finally felt the warmth of hope wrapping around him once again. As the sun crawled higher in the sky, Jake could hear the laughter of his children echoing in the distance, a promise of a future he would fight to protect. In that humble moment, he understood. Redemption requires confrontation, and it's in the truth that we find our freedom. Subscribe immediately to the channel, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm. You better do it. It makes a difference. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. Let's get talking. And instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. Real fans know the importance of supporting the channel, so don't be left behind.